This episode of Bonded Voices is brought to you by iCoat Products. iCoat Products make living spaces beautiful with decorative concrete and epoxy products from iCoat. Visit them online at www.icoatproducts.com. Enter the coupon code BV1, Bonded Voices 1, and get 12% off at checkout. So welcome back to Bonded Voices. This is season 3, and we're dealing today with an amazing topic, guys. The entrepreneurial revolution, which is happening big time in industry at the moment, and everyone's talking about AI. But I think the issue out there is more than AI. I think you're right, Loren. It's the entrepreneurial revolution. I'm Ian.
This is Loren.
And I'm Greg.
And welcome to Bonded Voices. So yeah, let's talk entrepreneurial revolution. Now, I'll just open up with something. I've always considered myself an entrepreneur. Whenever I've gone into businesses, I've always had that on my resume. Some people would say jack of all trades, master of none. Fair comment, right? But at the same time, I think that the way most men don't like to be good at just one thing. They like to have a skill set that gives us the ability to do anything.
Yeah, I think you do the same thing over and over again, it gets boring.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You need the spice of life there.
And think of as parents as well. As parents, you don't want to say to your children, well, I don't play that sport, or I can't do that. So, find mum to do it with you, or find next door neighbor.
Sure.
So you like to do different stuff.
Do you think the entrepreneurial term means jack of all trades?
No, I don't. But I said that because I think that a true entrepreneur is someone who's creative.
Sure.
As someone who can reinvent themselves on the fly. Where a jack of all trades is someone who just has the ability to do fairly well a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So are you thinking more of a solo entrepreneur, like a solopreneur, or are you thinking more of
a multipreneur?
Well, most entrepreneurs start a company. They're not solo, but with this AI revolution, that's what they're seeing. Is there's companies now that can be generated with one person. They've already got multi-million-dollar companies that have one employee.
Right, and I think you mentioned it before, and I think this is a great point, that we'll probably see in the next couple of years a one or two man billion-dollar company.
Yes.
That's going to happen. There's a video you sent today where they're saying that people are going to take a person's talent, plug it into an AI, and that will be the intellectual property that you put in, and you can earn money, passive income from plugging that. And there's so many great thought spaces going on around it, which is very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people out there scared now. If you go on LinkedIn at the moment, and this is a bit of a corollary, but there's a lot of fearful people about, am I being laid off because of AI? Am I never going to get another job? Is my world changing forever? And I was actually talking to a few people online about this, and I don't think so.
I think we will see the ending of big corporations, where corporations have hundreds of thousands of employees. I think this is where small one or two-person companies will start evolving, and with the help of AI, you don't need a team of 10. You just need the idea. You need the drive. So that's where you get this entrepreneur revolution. It's much like the industrial revolution, but it's getting away from, like our one podcast a few episodes ago got about capitalism. We're going to break capitalism away from big mega corporations and make it into smaller,
more fragmented.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about this entrepreneurial revolution, and some of it goes back to COVID era, when people were sent away from the office, work from home. And we also saw a rise in Uber driving, Uber Eats, and that there's a decent percentage of the population that has decided, I'm just going to drive a car. And technically that person's an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Because they have left one corporate model for arguably a different corporate model, which starts to kind of blend the lines there.
You got my brain going on a brilliant thought here, which is big business has for maybe 20 or 30 years invested billions of dollars, right, in HR departments and people and culture and everything to retain employees and make people feel like they're not just a cog in the machine, but they're important.
Right, absolutely.
And it's had a complete backfire where everyone's like, I want to be my own boss.
Yeah.
I have no interest in working for the man anymore. I don't want to be treated like a child. And they've gone out and become their own entrepreneur. That just hit me with when you were saying that.
Well, when you made that comment about a cog in the machine, AI just proves that we're all just cogs in the machine.
Right.
Because you can plug an AI agent into a task instead of in most big corporations think that all employees are replaceable and interchangeable.
Right.
Doesn't matter how much domain experience you have, they will pick you up and move you around just because, well, that's the whim of the manager at that point.
So I want to say to people watching that if you're in a situation where you've just been laid off or you're fearful that what the future holds for your job, this is where we're going to explain what being an entrepreneur and the entrepreneur revolution is all about. Because think of it like this: a revolution in France was they overthrew the government. What's going to happen in industry is entrepreneurs are going to overthrow companies.
Yes.
They're going to come in with technology. They're going to come in with ways of doing things leaner, which means cheaper. And if you can get apples for apples technology for half the price,
Sure.
why would you pay double for it?
Sure. Exactly.
That's where the revolution's going to happen. And it's going to take people to take that brave leap and retool and get out there and start building new companies that can compete directly with current providers.
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at like all the vibe coding type platforms now, there's more ability to create software than there ever has been before. You don't need a team of developers.
Correct.
Or even product managers. It's whatever's up here becomes a product, and it's amazing. They're saying now with some of these platforms that when Apple first released their store, I can't even
The App Store.
the App
Yeah.
Store, that was a revolution in software development. This will be the next version.
Well, it was, because you think about when the App Store came about, not only did it blow out numbers that they never imagined, it changed the way people interacted from websites to now they're interacting with an app that was connected and directly in their pocket,
Yes.
following them everywhere. And that's a
And
really
tracking
powerful
their
move.
Tracking, yeah.
move.
That too, right? You know, that did it. It's a really powerful moment when this became the music store in your pocket. It became the directional. You could follow your family. You could get directions to anywhere. It solves so many problems that you used to have to go somewhere to do. Like going to the library. I used to go to the library and look things up. Who does that anymore? Right? So that was a revolution in and of itself, but it didn't change our work, as in it didn't affect the work you were doing and the position you held. But this AI revolution is going to,
Yes.
which means that unless you step up to be an entrepreneur, you are going to be at the whim of that machine, and maybe even asked to take a pay cut.
Yes. Well, at some point, there's not going to be any jobs and we've had this conversation, and I'm not a doom and gloom type person.
Yeah, but you keep going there on these podcasts.
I harp over the same things, but yeah, I
Just
think
for the sake of everybody that's out there listening, he's really an upbeat guy. He just hammers on AI.
yeah, but there's not going to be jobs for us if AI does all these things.
So, in doing research on this specific topic, I came across some very interesting data specific to new company formation and success of new businesses. And one would think that success, so a startup, quote unquote startup, higher success rate with younger leadership. And that's not the case.
No.
So between 40 and 60 years of age for the leadership, actually has almost double the success rate of the ages leading up to that. So 20 to 40, which is fascinating and a ray of sunshine on the horizon, because what does that group from 40 to 60 bring to the table?
Wisdom.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so AI has not yet figured out how to replace the wisdom of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in...
See, and that's a brilliant point, right? Because wisdom isn't knowledge.
Right.
And it's got to be understood. Wisdom isn't knowledge. It's how you pass knowledge in situations for different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's learning from the past.
Right.
And AI may give you 2 and 2 equals 4, 4 and 4 equals 8, and give you answers to things, but is it being wise with its decision? It may say the cliff is 100 feet until you hit the rocks. Wisdom says, don't jump. Right? Or don't drive your car that way.
Right.
And I think we're going to see, as AI evolves, certain fails where people sit there going, oh man, we never thought that would be the outcome. But yet, without wisdom, you're just going to get empirical answers.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn over time.
Right.
Like we know from raising children really early, when your child picks up a stick and it's like, where can I stick this stick? And he goes around the room finding, plug sockets. Right? And they stick scissors in there. Yeah, right. And things. The children don't have wisdom. That has to be learned. And especially, I think you're right, it's 40 plus is where you start to gain wisdom, and you start to do less stupid things, and you start making better choices and planning for the future wisely.
Absolutely. And AI may get there eventually because it's constantly evolving, gathering more data, interpreting more. But I'm not sure it's ever going to replace the human experience, the wisdom, the feel. And when I read this, I was actually a little bit excited because there's fear in the marketplace of I'm going to be replaced by AI. There's not going to be any jobs. It's going to be robots running the. I know. Look at his face. He's not buying it. But it was a boost of excitement for me when I came across the information of, well, yeah, all right, there's some validity to it rather than humans are just going to be replaced.
But think of this, right? I'm in marketing. There are certain jobs in marketing that I'm already using AI to do for me that I would have hired a person to do.
It's taking a job.
It is taking a job. But here's the other factor, though. I've worked in a lot of smaller companies where if you didn't have the money to hire that person, there was never going to be a job for that person.
That's true.
And I mean, I'm implementing it in a lot of smaller companies that would be like that. We just don't do it because we haven't got the money for it. So now I'm utilizing AI, so they're getting more value from the tool, but they're not losing money or making money because they would never have spent that money.
So there's two paths that people use for AI. It's a force multiplier for a single individual, and or it can be a force reducer. And everyone's worried about the force reduction aspect. I see it a lot where it's a force multiplier where I work, but because it's a force multiplier, it does reduce the number of new employees being hired. So that it is even though it's a multiplier, it does reduce jobs. Now, I had a question about this whole thing, is that
will it kill all the jobs?
Will it kill jobs? I'm not sure. Here's the thing. If it was any other generation besides Generation X, which were more feral and want to be more independent, would the entrepreneurial revolution occur?
Yes.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Say the question again.
So we're Generation X. It happens to be more feral, where we like to be more independent, right? Other generations were like, work for a big company. Everyone's got to work for a big company. That's Greatest Generation
Sure.
baby boomers.
Yeah.
They're all like, work for a big company, work your entire
pension,
life,
that
get a
whole thing,
pension,
yeah.
right? Would that generation respond in an entrepreneurial way, or would they be like doom and gloom?
I think it's the human spirit.
Okay.
I think that it's a survival mentality for some. For some, it's an opportunity of, wow, this is going to be great. I get to work for myself. I get to get all the flexibility that I want. But for some others, it's going to be, I've got to do this or I don't make money.
So how do we teach our kids?
Well, so I was thinking about that when, Ian, you were talking about, well, I'm having AI do work that historically someone may have been hired to do.
Yeah.
So then is there a social responsibility for the entrepreneurs to hire young people to help them gain the wisdom to eventually become their own entrepreneurial spirits?
I think that this is going to fall into one of our Bonded Voices tenets, right? Which is there is an obligation amongst everyone, not just to hoard money, but to pass on knowledge, pass on value, and pass things down to our children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing that, there's something wrong with you.
Sure.
Right? So yeah, there is. Are there people who are not going to do it? Yeah, but they're going to take everything to their grave, and what's that worth? So I think there's a point where people have to say to themselves, I have something really valuable. Who can I bless this with? Because it may be also something like, and just think of it as an instance with any technology. If you have 1,000 accounts, how many of those can you visit in a year and maintain, right? Or in a week? You can't do 1,000. Can you do it in a month? Probably not. 6 months?
Well, I could build a bot that'll do it.
Yeah.
No, but you can't visit those accounts.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So there gets to a point when, and thousands not a big number. When we're talking millions and billions, now you get to a point where you need to scale with, and I think what it's going to be, it's a combination of AI agentic technology, but with entrepreneurs behind those as well.
Right. So I go back to, how do we teach our kids to be entrepreneurs? Not how to use the AI technology, but teach our kids to be.
Can you teach someone to be an entrepreneur?
That's
a bigger question.
I think that some
right?
people are born with that spirit.
Yes. Well, I
And
go back to
for
the
others,
generation.
it's learned.
Yeah.
So back to the social responsibility, hiring people, and then you hit on a good point, which was, I think it ties into a previous podcast that we did this season with capitalism. When is it too much? And will we see there are some people that it's all the money they can get at all costs. They'll give up their family, they'll give up their health, they'll give up everything for money.
Yep.
So will we see through this entrepreneurial revolution more companies being started? And we're not talking about hypothetical. This is going on now.
Yeah,
this is happening.
Yeah.
But will we see a shift in societal beliefs and preferences and where people spend their money and their time? Will we see an increase in the family unit? The value of that, where you have a situation, some of the companies that you do work for, you can bring AI into that so that it adjusts your time at work.
I think that's going to be part of this revolution, for sure. I think you'll have, and I think the head of NVIDIA said it as well, and the head of Shopify, only hire people who bring agents with them.
Yeah.
So it can be a case of, Loren, here's the job we need you to do, you and or the agents that you have. And so it doesn't matter whether you're remote, it doesn't matter whether you're hybrid, it then becomes very measurable. And are you hitting your numbers?
Well, that becomes a more of a fractional type employment.
Yes,
You're not going to.
Fractional and entrepreneurial are tied together.
Yeah, so you're not going
sure.
to be work for a big corporation. I'll work for 10 corporations part-time instead of one corporation full-time.
So similar to who made all the money during the gold rush? Was it the miners, or was it the people that sold the tools?
It was the people selling shovels.
Okay, so who's
outside of the odd unicorn
Sure.
who found a thing of gold this big?
right? So who's going to benefit from all of this?
Well, already I think you're seeing aggregators always win. Anyone who aggregates technology always wins because everyone goes to them. At the end of the day, I would pose that question a little bit different, which is, what is winning? Because, like as you said earlier, like about the people who make as much money as they can, they don't see their families, they don't watch their kids grow up, they don't go to the kids' softball games, the wife divorces them, they go on to a second wife, she's gone because they're not around.
Right.
Their friends are fleeting. Like, is that winning? I've never held the person with the most toys wins.
Right.
Because I've seen people with lots of toys completely miserable bastards.
Sure.
And it's like, the last thing I'd ever want to be. And then you've seen people who are satisfied, and I think the key, it comes down to being satisfied with your lot, which then falls this conversation into maybe a ethics and a religious connotation of satisfaction. But I think as well that to round this conversation off for me is going to be how people's morality plays into how this revolution unfolds. Because I think if you're the sort of person who absolutely is take and not willing to give, then you've got a moral problem.
Yeah, but that's the way society has been built.
And it's moving that direction.
Even more, yes.
You know?
Well, when people see there's the Bezos and Musks and that are worth hundreds of billions, they're like, well, I want to be the next billionaire. We just talked about the first one-person company at $1 billion valuation. There's companies now, one employee, $100 million, or it's 85 to 87 million dollars is what the valuation was. One employee, and it's worth that. So if you could start having multiple entrepreneurs that are all like, oh, now my company's worth 5 million, but this company's worth 10, whatever it is, that's going to be, it'd be interesting because there's not enough money for everyone to be worth that much.
Or is that? Because like you think there's out there, we've got what, $37 trillion debt in this country. The whole world's economy is a couple of $100 trillion. If you think about that money spread amongst the population, that's a lot of money per person. And then you think about how most of it resides in the top, I think 15% of wealth owners, right? So there's a huge imbalance, but there's a lot of that money being hoarded. Like Elon Musk's worth 47 billion or something.
But that's not, so we have to be careful. That's not actual money. That's value,
right?
It's not like he's got 47 billion.
But he can liquidate that, right? I think that's the key to it. Like when your stock goes, or your stock portfolio goes up to $1 million, you can liquidate and you've got $1 million.
Right.
Right. If you don't liquidate, you've got $1 million of value. So there's a little semantics involved there.
But he would no longer be in his business. You're saying you're wanting him to retire.
No, but what I'm saying is he has the ability with the money he's got.
So he could hit the button and cash out.
He could trickle down $10 billion, would not change his life one iota, but it would change a lot of people's lives further down the chain.
The problem with that, though, is that that causes devaluation, and he could give away 10 billion of his 47 billion, and that turns into 25 billion. His 47, by giving away 10, becomes 25.
It could.
Yeah. Is this the new math that we're using?
Yeah.
There's an AI bot that comes up.
There's a reason why companies have limits on owners selling stock.
Yeah.
Founders have, you can only sell this much stock per year. That's the reason Gates has been selling stock since the 90s, and he still has hundreds of millions of shares.
Sure. So, well, those are economic protection, so there's not a run on something. But another factor in this is that when you get back to that, the majority of the wealth, or a lion's share of the wealth, is held by 15%. That group is also heavily populated with very aged individuals.
Correct.
So we are experiencing a time frame of a massive wealth transfer.
We're on the cusp of a massive wealth transfer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's coming into play as well. That's going to free up some money that might be sitting in accounts that gets passed down to the next generation, and they use it to go buy a Bentley, and then the Bentley dealer, so on and so forth.
But maybe this is also the perfect time as that wealth's being handed down for people to start their own businesses, become entrepreneurial, or the entrepreneurs out there now they've got seed funding to go out and start an AI company, roll the dice on a few things, which could actually accelerate this whole revolution.
And that's one of the factors as well with the success of older 40 to 60-year-old entrepreneurs, is that they tend to have more access to seed money,
right,
than someone that's younger.
Makes a lot of sense. So let's pivot a second onto, we've been covering our 10 tenets of bonded voices. We're trying to figure out what they are, and we've been going through a few of them. So one of them that we want to cover on this episode is basically being impeccable with your word, which actually comes from several different mantras and followings in life. The 4 agreements, one of them is be impeccable with your word. It's about being honest. It's about saying what you mean and meaning what you say. We started this whole thing with meaning what you say on a New Year's Eve a couple of years ago. We started our coffee group, which is still going strong, haven't missed a week in 2.5 years now. And that started by that. So what do you think about being impeccable with your word, meaning what you say, saying what you mean?
It's very hard to do, for one, but yeah, I think that's...
Because it's easy to throw out platitudes.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, case in point, I asked everyone to pray for a relative that's having health problems. It's easy for me to go, oh yeah, I'll say prayers for somebody, but it's another thing to actually do it.
Correct. Yeah. But I think it's also the same thing that if you meet someone in an awkward situation, they say, let's get together for drinks sometime. Most people have a hard time going, no, I really don't want to do that. So they'll throw out I'll look at my calendar and I'll see what...
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I've met very few people in my life who have just been straight up, that's not going to happen. Not that blunt, but you tell it straight away that they're just like, no, that's probably, not. But I appreciate that long term.
Sure.
You may feel a bit stung at the moment, thinking, "Wow, why did I say that?" But at the end of the day, having that type of honesty for people is refreshing.
Well, it's similar to the term of ghosting, where you have a relationship with someone and then all of a sudden something happened, and there's no closure.
Right.
Then you've got someone that's, maybe they're going to reach out to me tomorrow. There's so much mental time wasted in that situation versus the person that's brutally honest and says, yeah, you know what, we're not going to go get drinks.
Which is interesting, right? So in the business sense, do you owe somebody a response if they pitch you on something, or you've at least had one conversation with them? At what point do you owe them? Because I think if you get hey Greg, we want to sell you new windows, can you give us a yes or a no? I don't think you owe them anything to give them a yes or no. I think delete's good enough, because you never asked for that. But if you'd had the conversation, is it only one conversation or 2 conversations where you absolutely owe them a response?
See, I think if I reached out to them first, I would owe a response. But if they're spamming me and I happen to pick up the phone one time, maybe they catch me again, I don't look at the number and I answer again, they're annoying me.
Right.
They don't deserve anything in my book.
Does it have anything to do with whether or not at the bottom of their email it says you can unsubscribe? Because usually that's done for mass marketing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can remember having a conversation with an individual, this was 15 years ago, and they were trying to sell me on a product that I myself was involved with. Totally different company. And I said, hey, just want to cut to the chase. I'm never going to buy your product because I am in the same industry. So why would I buy your product when I don't need it or I can get it elsewhere?
Right.
And that person called me back 3 times. It became very adversarial. He was yelling at me.
That's
and
bizarre.
I was fascinated with, someone is paying you to make these calls to try and meet sales numbers, and you're only making someone angry who's never ever going to buy your product.
See, I think sales, and this is going in that same idea of being impeccable with your word. I think sales has got to that point where it's so aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so hardcore that sales doesn't work anymore.
Right.
I mean, phone call sales, and that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they're now SMS spamming the crap out of people.
Sure.
Everyone's learned to bypass it on email. Now they're trying to go directly. I just hit delete, report junk, delete, report junk all day long.
Well, the automobile industry changed their model. There's a couple of big dealers that came out with the price on the window is what you get. You don't have to worry about dealing with a salesperson anymore, because that industry had such a moniker for terrible...
For lying, not being impeccable with your word, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a good one. So for our audience, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think about our tenets. We want to hear feedback from you. Things are changing fast in the podcast world, and this exciting. We've actually gone to video for this episode as well. So until next time, I'm Ian.
This is Loren.
And I'm Greg.
And we'll see you again on
Bonded Voices.